Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting for Wednesday, November 6th. I am looking for adoption of the agenda. Mayor Elmsley, Member Willick, all in favor? That passes. Do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest today? I see none. So today we will be moving into some public meetings. We have 3 in front of us today. As required under the Planning Act, a public meeting is being held prior to the committee making a recommendation on these applications. All recommendations that come up this afternoon will be forwarded to the next regular council meeting on November 19th. The purpose of this public hearing is to allow the committee to gather information on the applications before us, to hear those wishing to make submissions on the applications, and to allow the committee to ask questions of the applicants, interested parties, and staff. Everyone speaking today is requested to state their names for the public record. In the interest of time, the committee respectfully asks that you keep your comments to no more than 5 minutes. When the appropriate time comes, after the planner makes their presentations, member of the public will be provided an opportunity to speak to any of the public meeting items on the agenda. At that point, please unmute yourself and turn on your video, or come to the podium and press the speak button to activate the microphone. So our first public meeting today is Plan 2024-058, application to amend the Mariposa zoning bylaw 94-07 at 220 Linden Valley Road, Woodville, Hallcast Farms Limited. And can I ask the planner to present this application? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rafael Romero. I'm an urban planner from Dillon Consulting Limited here on behalf of the City of Kawartha Lakes Development Services Division. Thank you to the applicant for being here today, and to staff, the chair, and the rest of the Planning Advisory Committee for considering this zoning bylaw amendment to fulfill a condition of consent for the severance of a surplus farm dwelling under file number D03-2024-004 to prohibit future residential development on portions of the agricultural lands. The applicant proposes to rezone these lands accordingly. I would like to take notice that for this application was originally given to the landowner, agencies, and departments in accordance with matters of the Planning Act. This is the first circulation and appearance at PAC for this application. The subject lands, as shown on screen, are located at 220 Linden Valley Road and legally known as Part Lot Concession 14, former Township of Mariposa in the City of Kawartha Lakes. Next slide, please. The subject lands encompass a total area of approximately 53.37 hectares with approximately 608 meters of frontage on Linden Valley Road and approximately 150 meters of frontage on Glen Road. Existing uses on these lands include a single family dwelling unit and detached drive shed. Surrounding these uses, this subject property is environmental protection and agricultural to the north, and agricultural uses to the east, west, and south of the subject lands. Next slide, please. The subject lands are zoned Agricultural 1 on Schedule A of the Township of Mariposa Zoning Bylaw 9407 and designated Prime Agricultural and Environmental Protection in Schedule A2 in the Kawartha Lakes Official Plan. Next slide, please. The application is needed to amend Section 8.1 of the Mariposa zoning bylaw, which permits a surplus farm dwelling on the land zoned Agricultural 1. As per the condition of consent, the applicant seeks to rezone portions of the subject lands from Agricultural 1 to a site-specific agricultural Exception 44 zone to prohibit residential use, and rezone portions of the subject land environmental protection zone in areas designated environmental protection in the Kawartha Lakes Official Plan, which identifies as significant woodlands. At this time, this fulfills the statutory public meeting requirement as set out in the Planning Act. As per Schedule D and Appendix D of the Planning Advisory Committee report shown on screen, the proposed zoning bylaw seeks to amend Schedule A of the Township of Mariposa zoning bylaw from agricultural A1 zone to the site-specific agricultural exception 44 zone and the environmental protection zone as shown on screen. In terms of policy conformity, the zoning bylaw amendment is to be supported by the provincial planning statement and the official plan. As part of the review, relevant departments and agencies were circulated on the application, and as noted in the report, any comments received has been addressed. Planning staff are therefore of the opinion that the zoning bylaw amendment is appropriate as it prohibits residential use on parts of these subject lands, thus facilitating the lot severance. In addition, it protects the woodland features through the environmental protection zone. Accordingly, staff recommend that the zoning bylaw amendment respecting application D06-2024-021 and the form attached in Appendix D to report Plan 2024-058 be approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the update. Do we have any questions of committee? Mayor Elmsley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Romero. Under the new rural zoning bylaw, would there be any changes that are different from what is being proposed, to your knowledge?
Through the chair, the application only deals with amending the zoning bylaw to prohibit residential uses on the land zoned A44 and environmental protection. There is no development being proposed with this application.
Thank you. Perhaps the director, I'm just wondering if in the new rural zoning bylaw, there are any changes that are different from whatever zoning bylaw this is, Woodville, I think, Mariposa, that is different from Mariposa that exists now.
Appreciate the question through the chair, and thank you to the planner as well. My only comment, Mr. Mayor, would be that from our review so far, it doesn't appear that there are any substantive changes. As you may be aware, as the committee may be aware, the rural zoning bylaw is currently under appeal. As a result of working through those appeals, and should the tribunal end up making an order that effectively has some change to these lands, it would be incumbent on staff, and we are prepared as a future housekeeping amendment to the rural zoning bylaw to carry over permissions within a certain time period, but to carry over permissions that owners have undertaken through independent amendment exercises to ensure that consistency.
Thank you for that. I wasn't objecting to what's being done. I just wanted to make sure we had all our bases covered.
Thank you. Is there any other questions from committee to the planning staff at this time? Okay, I don't see any. Does the applicant, owner, or their agent wish to speak to the application?
Good afternoon, members of the committee, staff, and members of the public. My name is Gord Mahoney. I'm a senior planner with Michael Smith Planning Consultants, and I'm here on behalf of Holcrest Farms Limited. I'd like to thank Mr. Romero for the excellent presentation. I have detailed notes here, but I think he has covered most of everything I would say. So with that, I'm just going to skip my presentation. Thank you. And identify that, yes, the zoning bylaw amendment is twofold: to prohibit residential development on the retained land, and second, to protect the natural features on the retained land in perpetuity, as outlined in my planning justification report in support of the consent and the zoning bylaw amendment. It is my opinion that the requested zoning bylaw amendment is consistent and conforms with provincial planning policy and with the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan. It's also my opinion the application represents good planning and is in the public interest. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And does the committee have any questions of the applicant owner at this time? I don't see any, so you're off the hook. Okay, so does anyone else wish to speak to the application at this time? Does anybody wish to speak to the application? And for the third time, does anybody wish to speak to the application? I don't see any. Does the applicant or the agent on behalf of the applicant wish to respond to anything? Obviously, we're good to go. Okay, thank you. All right, then at this time, the public meeting on this matter has concluded. After what we've heard today, committee, what is your recommendations? Member O'Reilly?
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman. I give the motion that we receive the report and move the recommendation. I don't have it in front of me, but you can read it if you wish.
Clearly, I'm going to be reading that for you. Okay, so that the report plan 2024-058 application to amend the Mariposa zoning bylaw 94-07 at 220 Linden Valley Road, Woodville, Hallcrest Farms Limited be received for information. That a zoning bylaw amendment respecting application D06 2024-021 substantially in the form attached Appendix D to report plan 2024-058 to be approved and adopted by council, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the documents required by the approval of this application. We have a first and a second. Member Willick, all in favor? And that passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move to 3.2, Plan 2024-059, application to amend the official plan and Bob Cajun zoning bylaw 16-78 at 75 Main Street, Bob Cajun, 75 Main Dev Inc. And if we can have the planner come on to give us an update, that would be great. Thank you.
Hello, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Amanda Bree Watson. I'm a registered professional planner and senior planner with Dillon Consulting here on behalf of the City of Kawartha Lakes. I would like to start by thanking you for your time and considering this application for an official plan amendment at 75 Main Street in Bob Cajun. This is being presented and to be received for information purposes only. I would also like to note that this official plan amendment accompanies a zoning bylaw amendment, that application that was presented at PAC on September the 11th, 2024. Notice of this official plan application has been circulated only once, and this is the first appearance at PAC to deal with the OPA. The proposed development would facilitate the new development of a multiple unit townhouse containing 2 buildings and a total of 16 units. Next slide, please. Can you go back? I think we're supposed to be on the slide that shows the neighborhood, the aerial. Oh, okay, never mind. Sorry, it's out of order. It's okay. My apologies. So the subject lands encompass a total of about 0.21 hectares and contain 2 existing 2-story buildings and an accessory building. As proposed, both buildings would be removed to accommodate the proposed new development, redevelopment of the site. The surrounding uses include commercial, light industrial, and residential, various forms and densities, and Main Street to the west of the property. Looking at the secondary plans, so that would be the slide 3, I believe. The subject lands are within the secondary plan, the Bob Cajun secondary plan, and they are designated service employment on Schedule F2. The OPA would deal with, a variance or an exception to the density of the development of the subject site. With respect to zoning, I'll be very brief on that because it was covered in September. But the lands are currently zoned C1, Commercial Central Zone, in the Village of Bobcaygeon Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw. And there are some reductions in the zoning bylaw amendment as well. I can speak to that if there are any questions, but in the essence of time, I'm just going to move forward. So again, the proposed development, which is included on a concept plan, I believe that's slide 5, would be 16 units, multi-unit townhousing. The net density would be about 78 units per hectare, which exceeds, again, the secondary plan policies. And the application review does include both an OPA and ZBA. Just to clarify again, this application has only been presented for information at this time. We do feel that the circulation and this presentation fulfills the statutory public requirements set out in the Planning Act. We believe that a little bit more discussion between the proponents and the city needs to take place, and a future presentation to PAC would be scheduled once those items have been confirmed. I'm available to answer any questions should the committee or public have any. And again, planning staff respectfully recommends that the official plan application D01 2024-007 through this report being Plan 2024-059 be received for informational purpose only. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Does the committee have any questions of Amanda at this time? Member O'Reilly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through to you, either to the consultant or to one of our staff. Is there any update on the functioning servicing report? I don't need a specific date or just, yeah.
Sure, through the chair. To the member, if the question is about the, what corporately, the sort of, I'm going to call it the master servicing study is that the one you're referring to? Very good. And my trusted colleague will correct me if I've got the timing wrong here. There is an update planned by the Engineering and Corporate Assets Department to bring to Council the results of the water, wastewater, as well as the transportation master plan studies, but those won't be ready for another month or so to present to Council. So the work is taking place in the background, but it's not complete yet. Okay.
Is there any other questions from committee at this time? I don't see any. Amanda, actually, I do have one question. The last time we received this information, there was a concern regarding the parking spaces. I'm just wondering, is there any update or on that particular issue at this time?
Thank you, through the chair. At the moment, that is one of the items we are still working with the developer on. I don't have any updates, and through the circulation of this OPA, we did receive further comments from neighboring landowners about that parking concern. So no new information at this time, but those comments are duly noted.
Thank you very much. Does the applicant owner or the agent wish to speak to the application at this time?
Yes, Madam Chair. I wish to address Planning Advisory Committee. By way of introduction, my name is Kevin Duguay. I'm a planning consultant, registered professional planner, nationally, provincially, and have appeared before PAC previously as it would relate to the September 11th zoning bylaw amendment application. I also am aware that the property owners are monitoring this call, and I suppose, if required, could be called upon if to clarify matters. Madam Chair, I'd like to spend a few minutes with respect to this report. Your planning consultant's presentation, there was an incorrect reference made to the official plan designation of this property. There was an exhibit shown, which I don't think pertains to the property, pertains to another one on Kent Street, and there was reference that this property is employment land it is not. So to be very clear, this property, the map exhibit that was referenced and outlined for planning committee is applicable to, I believe, the next file. So I just wanted to clarify matters in that regard. Insofar as the official plan amendment application, the official plan amendment application made at the time, the application was required to amend the VCOP official plan, which was the governing and applicable policy document at the time of application. I note within the report, there's now reference made that the Bobcaygeon official or secondary plan is now in effect. And at my planning experience, ongoing professional planning experience, you can't change the playing field mid-application. So the applicable plan remains the VCOP plan, but I can advise planning committee that I'm satisfied that the utilization of this property and its redevelopment for multiple unit housing would accord with generally the directives of the Bobcaygeon plan. There was also a reference made on page 4 of 13 of the report, the second paragraph in the application review section, and it said, as part of the review, and I'm quoting this, the planning staff have determined a number of outstanding issues and are working with the applicant and relevant parties to address them. Not to be overly critical of process, but I have had no communication with the planning staff with respect to any of these issues other than my own receipt and review of this report. So until reading this report, I wasn't aware that these were necessarily issues arising from the circulation of the combined official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application. I would suggest to planning committee that the issues that have been raised are primarily site plan related, and they are matters that would be appropriately addressed through the site plan approval process, of which my client has stated during the statutory meeting pertaining to zoning bylaw amendment that they are fully prepared to work directly with the municipality and their departments and any stakeholder agencies in that regard. This application, my planning opinion that was provided originally through zoning and subsequently through official plan amendment, it remains my professional planning opinion that the redevelopment and the associated official plan amendment, which is a policy exception, and zoning bylaw amendment, are firstly representative of good planning. Secondly, were consistent with the then applicable provincial policy, PPS, and 2020 growth plan. Were generally in keeping with the Victoria County official plan, and lastly, the Village of Bobcaygeon zoning bylaw amendment. I recall from the zoning bylaw amendment, there was one person who had a concern with respect to what might have been removal of survey stakes. There was no public concern or opposition, unless there's any today, regarding zoning. And I think that's important from a land perspective. I'll speak lastly, and then I'll conclude. I'm trying to stay under 5 minutes, Madam Chair. The comments with respect to vehicular movement and site parking for a property that would contain two multiple unit buildings separated by a common driveway, the 6 meter width. This is very common in my work in many urban municipalities where the intent is to try to minimize to an appropriate level driveway widths and pavement, and ensure that an optimization of site development can occur. The commentary in the staff report talks about alternatives if site parking was reduced. This property is within convenient walking distance of a downtown. That is one of your alternatives, and I believe that was referenced in the original parking assessment. I'm not aware that there are bike lanes. I'm not aware that there are necessarily what we consider a full urban transit system. So I'm not sure how what other alternatives other than proximity to downtown, and there is availability of sidewalks in that regard. But moreover, it's a market. It would be a market condition, and this is what municipalities are regularly considering, is reducing site parking development to number one, recognizing that vehicular ownership is declining, not increasing. Moreover, this is a downtown or central area property, and typically parking requirements in those environments are often, if not always, less than suburban context. So I understand that this report is information purposes only. My clients and I would continue to work with the municipality. The concerns that have been raised by departments, from my professional perspective, are site plan oriented. And we would be looking forward to try to bring this application back to PAC for approval as soon as possible, and still continuing to include the opportunity for potentially 2 affordable dwelling units as part of the overall development scheme. Madam Chair, committee members, staff, those are my remarks. I make myself available to you in the event you should have any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Duguay. I just want to also assure you that we do have the proper map in chambers and in the report. At this time, does committee have any questions of the applicant owner? Okay, I don't see any at this time. Does anyone wish to speak to the application? For a second time, does anyone wish to speak to the application? For a third time, does anyone wish to speak to the application? Okay, we see none. Does the applicant or the agent on behalf of the applicant wish to respond to the questions and comments heard today?
Madam Chair, at this point, I have no further comments to offer the Planning Committee and staff.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, at this time, I'm calling the public meeting to this matter is concluded. Committee, after considering all comments provided today, what is your recommendation to council? Can I just put a pause on that last statement, if you don't mind? Sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing. Amanda, would you like to respond to the comments?
No, unless there's any specific questions, no, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Barry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the benefit of the committee and for our colleagues on the phone, I might just provide a few clarifications if I think that might be helpful. There was a decision of the tribunal a number of weeks ago that brought the outstanding appeals to the Bobcaygeon secondary plan to an end, meaning the appeals were resolved. The Bobcaygeon secondary plan came into full force and effect, and by virtue of that order, also brought into effect all of the secondary plans and the remaining portions of the appealed city official plan. By doing so, it had also the effect of rescinding the Victoria County official plan. It is no longer in effect and has no bearing on the application that is before the committee. The applicant did apply quite correctly to amend the Bobcaygeon secondary plan, and that's the amendment that is before the committee. Another point of clarification, and we can appreciate this, certainly as planners, the community, there are any number of evolutions that we have to deal with in provincial policy and local policy. And in some cases, depending on the nature of the changes or how they're articulated in the Planning Act, they will impact how this committee and council makes their decisions. We are required now to bring in front of you our evaluation and analysis to the Provincial Planning Statement 2024, which also means that the growth plan and the PPS 2020 that you're used to seeing up until October 20th are no longer in effect for all intents and purposes. So the evaluation of this official plan amendment and the continued evaluation of the zoning is based only on the Provincial Planning Statement 2024. I also do agree with my colleague that a number of the matters will rest with the site plan approval application process that will follow should the amendments be approved. But before we get there, we do need to address any site deficiencies that would be resulting from the quote-unquote deficient parking. So if we're looking to reduce the parking standard, which may be entirely appropriate, that needs to be written into the zoning bylaw amendment. So we want to make sure that you have that information in front of you. If we wait to address that at the time of site plan approval, relief is going to be needed to the zoning bylaw, and that will come either through the form of a variance or another zoning amendment. So of course, we want to avoid that added administrative complication, which is unnecessary. Madam Chair, those are my comments.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you piping in there, Director. It certainly provides a little clarification on this application moving forward as well. So at this time, I will now call the public meeting as to be concluded. And committee, what is your wish, Mayor Elmsley?
As printed. You want me to read it?
Sure, you have a turn.
The report plan 2024-059, official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, 75 Main Street, Lot 5 east of Main Street, Plan 70, Village of Bobcaygeon, 75 Main Dev Inc., Kevin M. Duguay, KMD Community Planning and Consulting Inc., be received for information.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder? Member Willick, all in favor? And that passes. Thank you. Okay, we will move into our third item on the agenda today, our third public meeting. This is 3.3.1, Plan 2024-060, applications to amend the official plan in Lindsay bylaw 2000-75 at 400 Kent Street West, Lindsay, Nautical Land Group, CO George Willington. At this time, can I have the planning staff provide an update on the application? Thank you. I believe it's over to you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, everyone. It's been a minute since I've been at PAC. Good to be back. Lindsay Noren here from Dillon Consulting on behalf of the Kawartha Lakes Planning Division. I just want to say thank you for being here today, to the applicant and to staff and the chair and the rest of PAC for considering this official plan and zoning bylaw amendment application for 400 Kent Street West in Lindsay, which is looking to amend the Lindsay secondary plan to redesignate a portion of the site to accommodate a supportive living housing development consisting of a 4-story apartment building with 76 apartment-style dwellings and a mix of amenity uses, as well as 47 bungalow townhouse dwellings being presented today and received for informational purposes only. I would like to note that notice for this application was originally given to each landowner, agencies, and departments, all in accordance with the Planning Act. The subject lands are located at 400 Kent Street West. And if you look this up on a map, you're going to find this entire property outlined in blue here as 400 Kent Street West. The subject lands concerning this application, however, are that western portion I've delineated in yellow. And they're legally known as 400 Kent Street West, Concession 4, Part Lot 21, Registered Plan 57R7657 in the town of Lindsay in the city of Kawartha Lakes. This application concerns that western portion, as I just mentioned. This application was originally deemed complete in May of 2024, and circulation was initiated with a comment period ending on June 13th, 2024. After a development review team meeting, however, regarding the application took place on June 26, 2024, the applicant chose to reconfigure the buildings on their site plan after many comments regarding the site design as well as access points were raised. The applicant confirmed to planning staff that they did not want to appear at PAC until it was a more complete iteration with those comments from staff incorporated. The revised PJR and the site plan were received on September 27th of this year, circulated on October 1st, and comments were due on October 15th. As mentioned, changes to the site only concerned the orientation of buildings with a loss of 4 units. The overall proposal remained the exact same, and the public was notified of the applications through the circulation of the notice of public meeting, which happened on October 10th, 2024. Next slide, please. The site is under the ownership of Choice Properties, which forms the entirety of 400 Kent Street West, comprising about 5 hectares of commercial land holding. The subject site within this application has an area of about 2.25 hectares with about 115 meters frontage along Kent Street. The choice lands to the east are occupied by that Loblaws grocery store, as well as a gas bar. Next slide, please. This is an excerpt from the applicant's planning justification report, which shows the surrounding land uses, including the Lindsay Square Mall, the Whitney Town Centre, the Bloom Retirement Community located to the north, the Ontario Court of Justice to the east, and then past all of these includes various networks of residential, the Wilson Fields, as well as the Ross Memorial Hospital. Next slide. The site is currently designated general commercial in Schedule F1 of the recently OLT approved Lindsay Secondary Plan. It is also general commercial exception 6 zone in Schedule A of the Town of Lindsay zoning bylaw 2000-75. Next slide. The official plan and zoning bylaw amendment are needed to facilitate this proposal, which, as I mentioned, includes a 4-story independent living seniors building with 76 units and 47 townhouse units. As per the planning justification report, this includes 123 units, the 47 townhouse units, which are comprised of 19 2-bedroom units and 28 1-bedroom units, 76 mid-rise units, which comprise 40 2-bedroom units and 36 1-bedroom units. There would be approximately 107 apartment building parking spaces and 66 townhouse dwelling parking spaces for an entire site total of 173 parking spots. The application is seeking to add residential uses to the general commercial designation in the Lindsay Secondary Plan and rezone the site with specific exceptions for height, permitted uses, and parking. During the commenting period, comments came in from agencies regarding, but not limited to, the overall site design and layout, land use compatibility, transportation logistics, including the need for a peer review, and safety, servicing concerns, and general policy conformity. Planning staff are working with the applicant, and they have been aware of these comments from agencies to further review and refine these materials going forward. So at this time, planning staff respectfully recommend that this application be received for informational purposes only and referred back to staff until refinements to both the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment, as well as those respective technical studies, has all been addressed. The applicant is also here to make a presentation and assist in any questions that anyone may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does committee have any questions of planning staff at this time? Deputy Mayor McDonald.
Yeah, through you. The question I have right now is that Kent Street is really, really busy, and my concern would be the traffic going in and out of here. Is there any thing you've done to provide some kind of a traffic jam solution to that area?
Through you, Madam Chair, I hear your concerns. Yes, they did submit a transportation impact study, but that will be subject to peer review. And I can let the applicant speak more to those transportation concerns and the way they laid out the site as such when they do their presentation.
Thank you very much. Member Barkwell. We can't hear you yet. You're still on mute.
There, got it.
We
It was hard to
gotcha.
see in the little corner when I was up in the corner. Yeah, thank you very much. An excellent project, I think, for Lindsay. And my question is on the zoning map. It showed Bloom on one of the maps, but it doesn't show Bloom how it's zoned. And I wondered, was that rezoned for residential? And what is the zoning on that? And would that not be kind of a help to our consideration for rezoning this new property?
Through you, Madam Chair, I can't comment on the surrounding zoning as we're just looking at this one subject site, and in relation to everything around it is definitely something we're considering in terms of land use compatibility, and these conversations will continue to be ongoing and how this fits into the overall fabric of the Lindsay and Kent Street corridor.
Thank you, Lindsay. I think Director Barry might be able to provide a comment. Member Barkwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to the member. The development that the member is referring to did undergo both an official plan amendment as well as a zoning bylaw amendment to allow for its current use, that including the residential. And as the planner indicated quite rightly, in terms of compatibility, that use, as well as, of course, all the other surrounding uses, certainly contribute to the analysis and speak to how appropriate or reasonable the proposed residential density is. So we would take Bloom into account when reviewing. Thanks.
Perfect. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair, to Lindsay. The property, is it have easements on it, municipal easements, either north-south easements or east and west easements? I thought that there were easements on that property, or at least adjacent to it, or is that not the case? Utility easements, servicing easements, and that sort of thing?
Through you, Madam Chair, easements have been discussed during the development review team meeting, but as per easements that already exist on the site, planning is going to defer to the applicant to speak to those at this point.
Thank you very much. So we can address that question after the next section here. Lindsay, maybe I'll have to wait to the applicant as well. Are these are for rent, the apartment buildings are for lease? And how about the townhomes? Are they the same lease or ownership?
These will, through you, Madam Chair, it is our understanding through the PJR that they will be both rental and ownership tenure. It is unclear of the split between the two of them. I will let the applicant speak to that, but there is ambition for both of them.
Thank you very much. Is there any other questions at this time from the planner? Okay, I don't see any. Does the applicant, owner, or the agent wish to speak to the application?
Hi there. My name is George Whittington. I'm here representing Nautical Lands Group and Wellings of Lindsay Inc. I'm here to do a quick presentation on our proposal and answer any questions. So I think, thank you, Lindsay, for that presentation there. I think you covered a decent amount of what I was going to go over with regards to the site characteristics and site plan. As you can see, the site is located along Kent Street West, close to many retail and commercial services, as well as the transit hub at Lindsay Square Mall. And as mentioned, the site is under the same ownership as the Loblaws adjacent to the east. Next slide, please. Yeah, I think the site plan was touched on already. I'll just touch on maybe the recreational amenity space that would be included. So we include in on the ground floor of the apartment building a restaurant and bar, which is available for use from our residents as well as any visitors, as well as a fitness area and kind of a multi-purpose space for events and that kind of thing. And in terms of outdoor amenity space, we include a wandering garden as well as a community garden, a patio space, as well as pedestrian connectivity through paths throughout the site, as well as connecting via a path to the Loblaws to the east, as well as to Thornhill Road in the north, just to promote pedestrian connectivity. Next slide, please. Yes, as mentioned, 173 total surface parking spaces are proposed, which we feel adequately will be able to service the needs of our residents as well as the employees who would be working at the site and any visitors. And as well, yeah, so all units are for independent seniors living, meaning that all units have full kitchens and laundry, as well as outdoor space. That outdoor space comes in the form of balconies in the apartment building and front and rear yard space for the townhouses. Next slide, please. Here you can just see a rendering, aerial rendering from the perspective of Ken Street, looking at our site, or sorry, our proposal. You can see the pedestrian connectivity connecting into Loblaws there. And then you can't necessarily see it too well in the north connecting to Thornhill, but that's there as well. Next slide, please. So yeah, as Lindsay mentioned, the official plan amendment is to add residential uses to the existing general commercial designation. We feel that this is justified through the need for this type of housing typology in Kawartha Lakes. We feel that our site kind of is as well as having the residential use added, it falls into the commercial use as well, with the restaurant and bar that is located in the apartment building. And as well, we have approximately 30 to 40 full and part-time employment positions that would be generated from this development. And we feel that adding residential to the designation would really help to complement the existing nature of the surrounding area. Next slide, please. For zoning, for the zoning bylaw amendment, we would be looking to redesignate the site from general commercial to mixed residential commercial, with the following site-specific exemptions, which would be to include residential multiple 2 uses to be allowed. So that would be needed to allow the apartment building to be built. The maximum height would need to be amended to allow for 15.6 meters and 1.4 parking spaces per townhouse unit, which is less than what is presently allowed. Next slide, please. And then so the justification for those amendments are that we feel that the apartment height, there's a precedent for that with the, as mentioned, the Bloom retirement community, which is adjacent to the northeast of our site, of the subject site. And we feel that the amendment to allow the residential uses on site is consistent with the applicable policy in place from the provincial PPS growth plan, Kawartha Lakes official plan, Lindsay secondary plan. And it would also allow for a residential intensification along a road, major roadway, which is outlined in the Kawartha Lakes official plan. And amending the zoning bylaw would allow for allow the site to make use of the mobility options around the site, being walking distance to so many different amenities, as mentioned, the retail and the major transportation hub, or sorry, not the transportation hub at Lindsay Square Mall. Next slide, please. Those are just some more renderings of the apartment building specifically. Next slide, please. And here you can see some pictures of units from our Wellings of Stittsville project, which was opened, I think, in 2021 in Stittsville and Ottawa. Next slide, please. And then also from Wellings of Stittsville, you can see examples of our amenity space. The design of the building in Stittsville is slightly different, but this gives you a good idea of what to expect. Next slide, please. It's another rendering just from Ken Street. The site is located in the design policy area along Ken Street West, the western gateway into the town. So you can see we've included some landscaping along Ken Street there with trees to accommodate that design policy area. Next slide, please. And just finishing off with the benefits of our development. The development would provide affordable and desirable seniors independent living with rental apartment and townhouse units, which is one of the goals of the Kawartha Lakes official plan as well as provincial policy. It fills the need for that type of housing typology in the town and the city as a whole. Provides living options for seniors who are currently in Kawartha Lakes who are looking to downsize, potentially allow them to stay in their community and not go elsewhere. It's ideally located with great mobility options for pedestrian connectivity and connection to transit. Indoor amenities were touched on as well as outdoor amenities. Approximately 30 to 40 full-time and part-time employment positions would be generated. And just as a whole, Nautical Lands Group has a great history of providing this type of housing in a bunch of communities across Ontario and Alberta. And we would love to bring that housing to Lindsay. So I think that's it in terms of our presentation. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll take any questions at this time.
Thank you very much for that presentation and update. At this time, does the committee have any questions? Member Willick.
Through the chair, has there been consideration as to accessing Thornhill from the backside over the Loblaws property?
Yes, that was considered to have a full vehicular connection there. There is a utility structure on the northeast corner, just outside of the subject site, which makes it a bit more difficult to just have a vehicular entrance in that way. So in that regard, it's not the most convenient. And if we were to go around the utility, it would result in a loss of units, more so than we've already lost through the redesign of the site, the redesign of the apartment building configuration. So in that way, it's not the most feasible option for us.
Continue. Yep.
If I may, another. And what's the, are they all rentals, or are they will?
Yes, that's correct. All the units are rentals.
Member O'Reilly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What's your definition of independent living rental? What does that consist of? And have you decided on what affordability is around rent or what it might be?
For sure, yeah. So our model allows folks who are typically 55 plus to have a community where they can kind of thrive maybe before the need for an actual kind of nursing or retirement home. So we don't have any of those services that you would find in a nursing home or retirement home. But again, we do have services and amenity that really focus on kind of forming a sense of community and engagement amongst our residents. So that comes in the form of the restaurant and bar that I mentioned. I don't know if I mentioned it, but each of our residents have a one meal per day that is factored into their rent. So we really kind of encourage that sense of community to come down and dine with your fellow residents, form connections and relationships. and really make use of those amenities in that way. So we call it kind of aging in place. Like you don't have to go and buy a condo down in Florida or something like that to enjoy those kind of golden years of your life. We want you to be able to do it in the town or city where you've lived, in this case, Kawartha Lakes. And then speaking on affordability, we had an affordability analysis conducted by a consulting firm. So our units are around 20% more affordable than the market average. So that's what we kind of lean on in terms of our definition for affordability.
Thank you. Member Barkwell? We can't hear you, Mike.
There's my apology. That little icon in the corner is hard to tag here on my laptop. This may have been a question more suited for Dylan. We're just like the provincial planning statement is new to us, and I don't know what priority it takes on our for planning it to be more amenable to these different types of rezoning and official plan changes. Because I do know that on the PPS on 2.2 on housing, they do talk about intensification and mixing of houses permitted, and it says under section 2, section B, permitting and facilitating, section 2, that all types of residential intensification, including the development and redevelopment of underutilized commercial and institutional sites, are to be viewed more favorably. And I wonder, like, because we have to make that consideration as a planning advisory committee, and I wonder what kind of precedent does it take, or what kind of direction does it give us to do these OP and zoning changes? Thank you.
Lindsay?
I guess I can answer that. Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Member Barkwell, for raising this. I think the really beautiful part of planning is that it's constantly always changing, so we always have to be quickly adapting, which keeps us quick on our feet, I hope. The review of this application will be in conjunction with a review of PPS 2024. So we will be looking at those policies that apply to this site, and we will be judging it based on that. And this is just an ongoing process as we work through these little tweaks to technical studies and conversations with the applicant of how to best find a resolution for this site, for this area. And that is definitely something we're considering. So I appreciate you bringing that to the table.
Thank you very much. It was a great question. Deputy Mayor McDonald, nothing?
Yes, through you, Chair. Back to the affordability, they said 20% less than affordability. Compared to what? Where did you get those numbers from? The rent that is happening right now in the city of Kawartha Lakes, or where do you get that number from?
Hi, I'm Angela Mariani, and Madam Chair, I'm a colleague of George Whittington. I'm part of the Wellings development community. So with respect to affordability, that's a big issue for us as well. And we did an affordability study prepared by Tate, and it's very difficult for us to be affordable because we don't qualify for any grants, because we provide a meal service, and because we have a unique type of living community. We don't fall under any grants, so we can't apply for anything. So what we did was we did our own review of similar communities, and we try to be at least 20% more affordable than any other community than any other development in Lindsay. And that report has been shared and is in your, I guess, your information package for review. We try to start our at $19.99, so $2,000. We try to be as affordable as we can. We take $500 deposit, which can be refunded if the person doesn't want to live there anymore or has decided to move somewhere else. And it's a month-to-month rental. So as much as we try to be affordable, we try to provide everything that we can to keep our residents in our community. If they do wish to leave, they have that openness. It isn't, you know, a 3-year commitment or anything like that. So that's why we try to be affordable. We try to be, we try to have all the amenities that we can and still, you know, have a beautiful place for someone to live. And that's how we, that's the best that we can do. And we try. And we've been doing this, like George said, for, you know, almost 40 years now. We have communities all throughout Southern Ontario. We've been looking at Lindsay for a really long time, and we were lucky to have Choice approach us on some of the properties that are just sitting there. And this was one of them that we thought we could bring a beautiful community in an area that needs it and something different than what's already there. So I hope that's helpful. I also, if I can, just wanted to let you know that, and I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I'm sorry I just kind of stepped up, but I just wanted to clear up a couple of the loose ends, and if that's okay.
That's fine. More information's better for us, so thank you.
We did come to this, we started, I think our first pre-app meeting was in 2021 with Kawartha Lakes. And we were told that we couldn't move forward until the growth management study was completed, and then we were just recently told that we could come in for the application. So we've been waiting for a long time to get this community going. The traffic study that we had prepared shows that we will not cause any additional traffic to the community. We have seniors, for the most part, it is 55 plus, but most of our seniors are in their early to mid 70s in most of these communities and are still very active and typically do not go into traffic during high peak times. So they typically try to avoid that. We love this community because it is a walking area. They can walk across the street. There's also bus services. And in a lot of our communities, a lot of our seniors start out with 2 cars, end up with 1, and then, you know, just eventually give it up because the insurance gets too high and the maintenance gets too high. And this is a perfect situation because they can walk to the grocery stores. There's a bus system right across the street, and we promote that pedestrian connectivity. With the Bloom residents in behind us, there is that synergy as well because they provide long-term care, they provide additional services, and we've had situations where, you know, one spouse is fully capable of taking care of themselves and the other spouse needs additional care. So that is, they can still stay in that community and still feel like they're independent, the one that is independent, and the other one can just move into a additional care facility. With, I guess that connection, so I think there was a discussion about easements. There is an easement on the site that was an unregistered easement that has now been removed by Hydro. We are working with the easements that are currently there. There's that big Hydro infrastructure in the back. So that also, we actually wanted to go through that back road. We thought that that would be a better opportunity, but because of that easement, because of that Hydro structure that's there, it makes it really difficult, and the grading is really off as well. So that made it a bit difficult, but we will continue to work with staff and with Dylan and get this project going. I know the request is to come back again for another meeting, and I'm hoping that we don't need to, but we would like to continue to work with staff and get the information that they require. I'm not sure what the timing is to have like a peer review of our traffic study, but we're happy to work with them on that, whatever is needed to move this forward.
Great, thank you very much for those additional comments. Is there any more questions at this time? Oh, Councillor Ashmore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question on Thornhill. As you're aware, there's a lot of heavy truck traffic that comes in there for water. It's a major water. It is the major water distribution plant for the west part of Lindsay. And I noticed on the sketch there, number 50, the number 50 between your property and Wilson Fields, due to the congestion now of Bloom, and these are great facilities, but Bloom and your proposed site, would you, this may be a potential area where trucks will have to, due to the increased traffic there, that they may have to go in behind and turn around. That may be used as a turnaround in the future. You were aware of that, or is that something that's not going to impact on the truck traffic? Because it's really important that these trucks get in there and load up and unload, or load up and get back. There's a lot of truck traffic on that Thornhill. Even before we had before we had Bloom and before this development here.
Is that, I'm sorry, through you, Madam Chair, and is that directed to our traffic study?
No, it's just a question to you. I wasn't sure if you were aware of the sheer amount of traffic, the truck traffic, the heavy truck traffic. You mentioned there'd be a lot of pedestrians. That you work together with Bloom, or or people that are driving, you have a proposed exit coming out of the property onto that street, Thornhill?
Just a pedestrian path, is that?
No, I meant a vehicular, like for vehicles to get out. Is that what you're proposing to go on
We
to?
we can't use it.
Oh, you can't, okay.
Use it. We tried because we thought it would be an easier exit out, but we can't use it because of just the way the sites are situated. It just doesn't work for us to get that access.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay, I don't see any other questions. Does anyone wish to speak to this application? Does anyone wish to speak to this application a second time? Third time calling, does anyone wish to speak to the application? Okay. Does the applicant or the agent on behalf of the applicant wish to respond to any of these questions or comments that you heard today? Or, I mean, you've just provided a very fulsome update. Is there any additional comments at this time? All right, then. This public meeting of this, the public meeting part of this is concluded, so thank you very much for showing up today. Committee, after considering all the comments provided today, what is your recommendation to council? Who's up? Mayor Elmsley.
Apparently I can read it.
I can read too.
The report plan 2024-060 official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendments, 400 Kent Street West, OPSCON 4, part lot 21, RP 57 R7 657, parts 2 and 3, RP 57 R8 782, part 2 RP 57 R100 78, part 2, in the town of Lindsay in the city of Kawartha Lakes, Nautical Lands Group, care of George Woodington, be received for information.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder? Member O'Reilly? All in favor? And that passes. Thank you very much for coming today. Okay, so there's no deputations today, there's no correspondence today, there's no regular return reports. So after this, the public meeting held under the Planning Act is now adjourned. So can I have a first and second on that? Member Willick, Mayor Elmsley, all in favor? And we're concluded. Thank you very much. Enjoy that summer weather.